moving away a little bit from gear. Although I have a last question. You said that you nowadays you're like more excited about that you purchase a lot of outboard gear, which I find to be really interesting because I see that there is a tendency for people to work in the box, and work with stuff that the computer provides, or they have some kind of external DSP solution. And you say that you like to work with outboard gear. Anything in particular that you're looking for? Is it EQs? Is it compressors? What kind of stuff are you like hunting?
I think the biggest reason to why I need to have it here, like physically, is because of the Kemper process. I don't want to talk too much about the Kemper. I'm really hooked on that. Currently,
no worries. It's all good.
But yeah, I need to have it like in the chain. So it's I guess I could do some routing and using plugins and different stuff, but it's just more easier and more convenient to having it right in front of me in the chain. And I'm getting a bigger fan of just like having a completed guitar signal going into my DAW.
Okay.
I don't know. I'm not very nostalgic when it comes to gear. I just want it to be easy, and for some reason that has been the way for me. I don't have a lot of outboard gear at all. I have a like combined preamp and EQ, and I'm looking into getting probably a compressor as well. So yeah, it's mostly because of the Kemper thing. When I do profiles, I need to have a like perfect signal going back to my Kemper. But also when I do record with amps, I just like to dial in the tone as close to the end result as possible, and don't use too many plugins. I don't have anything against plugins. I've learned everything with using plugins. I guess it's maybe a challenge for me to see how close I can get to the end result of just like doing everything with my EQ and my preamp and mic placement and stuff like that.
Yeah, same here. I'm also trying to be as close as possible to the sound how I want it to sound like, and then maybe I use plugins to make the sound sit well in the mix. But I wouldn't like kind of go and I used to be a fan of reamping. I'm not so much these days. These days, I'd rather be on spot with the sound and be happy with it, and just make sure it sits well within the mix of things, but not like sit there and like, oh, now I have 20 cabinets I can choose from and 120 mics. And I'm like, I'm gonna sit here for 2 days.
Yeah, it's we talked last week about because Andy mentioned that you almost have to be ADHD to do YouTube because you have to know a bunch of stuff and you have to be able to dive into subjects.
Yeah.
And I found that the issue that you have when it comes to recording is option paralysis.
Yeah.
You have too many EQs, too many cabinets. So what I've done just to stop the ADHD thing from driving me completely bonkers is I streamline my workflow so I know what I have to put on. So I don't put on any like fancy EQ or anything. I just make sure that all my videos meet the requirement for YouTube, which is I think is like minus 14 LUFS for the range that they want. So I just make sure I have a limiter on there. There's nothing else. And a lot of people complain about like not putting too many plugins just to enhance the sound. And I find that the more I want to enhance the sound, the more I fuck it up. So I just don't put them on anymore. Yeah. So I trust my ears. Sometimes I put a microphone in front of the amplifier, and I know where it's going to sound best because I've done it like 100 times. So now I trust the process. And just like you, Frank, I don't do any more reamping. I still have reamp box and DI boxes, and I haven't used them in years. Just because it's far too much work, I remember one of the first videos I did, I had 2 cabs. I couldn't decide between the 2 cabs. I had like 4 microphones. I couldn't decide between the microphones. So now I'm like fucking around with the different mics, and now they're out of phase because I didn't know too much about like phase correlation between the microphones. And I'm like, oh my God, this sounds like crap. So I had to re-record everything with the 2 mics, and I was hell-bent on using 2 mics, but I didn't know like that I could use a white noise, not white noise, but pink noise to go through the amp and find the phase cancellation. So all the experience that I accumulated has brought me to like, keep it simple, stupid. KISS. Yeah. That's been my motto now for a few years. Yeah. Don't overthink it. Try to get as raw a sound as you can get. And I still get compliments on the sound, which is good. But sometimes I get people that say, I don't know, man, my amp doesn't sound like that. Your amp in your room, of course, will not sound the same. It's not the same room, right? And it's not under the microscope with a microphone either. No. So mic placement, a lot of people don't think about it. And I'm going to get nerdy here. But your microphone is the first EQ that you introduce to your whole signal channel. Yeah. And a lot of times when we start out, we just think that this just captures sound. But it doesn't just capture sound. It captures sound with a spectrum of frequencies that it enhances and scoops, and it band passes sometimes. Yes. So when you start to learn that about microphones, you're like, oh shit, should I get like a Royer 121? So I get like the most high fidelity sound, or an MD 421. Like, where do I put my money? And here I am still just using a Shure SM57 in front of the cabinet, and I don't overthink it. Like, I will not buy a $10,000 microphone to make YouTube videos. I will not do that.
Yeah. That being said, the Royer R121 is definitely a great mic for amplifiers. Used it numerous times, and I think that one blended with an SM57 is my all-time favorite combination when able to use 2 mics without fucking things up. So yeah,
agree.
R121.
I got since I can't afford a Royer R121, I got this instead, Super Lux. It's like, I think $129. It's a ribbon microphone. So I was like, okay, I can't afford like to spend that much money on another microphone. So I gave this one a shot, and I wasn't too sure. I was like, cheap microphones, is it kind of like cheap pedals? Does cheap equate to like really poor sound quality? No. And it turns out this microphone is actually really good. It's dark like a ribbon microphone should be, and it pairs well with the SM57. So yeah. I'm having fun with it. I don't have to overspend on stuff just to get quality. And I think that's the other point too with gear, is that we're at a point where you can get like a ribbon mic for $129, where before you couldn't do that.
No.
They were really expensive. They came with their own preamps, and you had to be sure not to turn on phantom power, or you could blow up the microphone.
Yeah.
Nowadays, it's like this mic I just showed you works with phantom power.
Yeah.
It's like, don't have to worry about it.